So when you're approaching a difficult text, and in some ways all philosophy texts are difficult, even simple ones are difficult. Right? But when you're approaching any difficult text, it's good to ask yourself a few questions. Like what is this text trying to do? What is the purpose of this person writing, and how are they trying to do it? Right? Because once we can answer those two questions, then we can be sophisticated readers and begin to read things critically. Luckily, Descartes is incredibly clear, I think, in the opening of this about those questions. Uh, what is he doing? He's trying to find out whether he really knows anything. Is there anything that I really know? How is he going to do it? He's going to do it through the method of doubt. Okay? I don't need to tell you these things. They're right there on the page. And you can see them for yourself. But I think that it's really good, especially in a philosophical text, to keep those simple questions in mind. That we hold any writer, philosopher or otherwise, to certain standards of reasonableness. This text should have some purpose. If it's not just sort of pure poetry or storytelling, it should have a purpose. It's something that it's trying to achieve. And it should be pretty explicit in how it achieves it. If it has an argument, or if it has a claim, it should have an argument to support it. If it's trying to do something, it should have a way of doing it. So Descartes, as he tells us, is taking this sort of quiet time in his life to really reflect upon his beliefs and opinions and ask himself whether he really knows what he's always sort of assumed that he does know, whether the opinions that he has about himself, about the world, are true. That is, if they actually reflect reality. And his method, again, is the method of doubt, which is very famous in the history of philosophy. As he says, it would be impossible to go through all of our opinions and beliefs one by one and ask ourselves whether they're true. What you'll see is that he'll take on whole classes or sorts of beliefs at a time, like, say, everything that we think we know that comes through the senses, and say, well, is there any basis for doubting the truth of whatever comes through the senses? This should be sounding pretty familiar, of course, from reading people like Russell and especially Sextus Empiricus. And his idea is that if these different sorts of belief can be doubted, that is, even if they seem like they're probably true, but it's possible to doubt them, then shall put them aside. And one may even borrow directly, I think perhaps Descartes does borrow Sextus's and the phrase suspension of judgment from ancient skepticism. That is, it would be silly to say, well, I can doubt this opinion so I know it's false. No, you don't know it's false. You know there's reason for doubting that it's true, but you don't know that it's false. So you set it aside. You suspend your judgment. You say, well, I don't affirm it to be true or false. And we'll see that this method of doubt, this idea of suspending your judgment about those things that can be doubted, and again, Sextus would say what? This is how you avoid dogmatism, right? Is for a purpose for Descartes, because the idea is that if he can find any belief amongst all the things that he believes are true, if he can find any belief that is not possible to doubt, which is indubitable, then he says that belief must be reliable. That is, if something is undoubtable, indubitable, if it cannot be doubted, then the idea is then it must be true and reliable. And we'll see that Descartes very famously, as we all know, in the I think, therefore I am idea, does find such a thing. And the idea is that if he can find a thing which is undoubtable, then he can use that as a foundation for sort of building up his knowledge again. Descartes does not want to be a skeptic like Sextus. That's a good thing to keep in mind. So we have an idea of what he wants to do, right? Find out if he knows anything. And we have an understanding, and this is all right there on the page, of how he plans to do it through the method of doubt. And if he can find anything that's not doubtable, then that's something that he can hold on to.